In 1989, this park opened as Disney MGM Studios, a revolutionary theme park experiment. And one of the most fascinating areas of the entire place was right here in the Animation Courtyard. There was a fun restaurant, there were even Muppets. And today, where you can look at different things from Star Wars completely separate from an entire land dedicated to Star Wars, there was once a wonderfully thorough animation studio tour. Today, the Animation Courtyard is a shell of its former self, a true shell. In comparison to the exciting goings-on in nearly every other corner of this park, this space is now disappointing and embarrassing. There have long been unconfirmed rumors that Disney is considering developing this space into a Pixar peer copy, bringing IP-driven staples with classic Pacific flair to Central Florida, which is an interesting thought, but ultimately ridiculous. If Disney is going to bring boardwalk-style entertainment via a manufactured seaside setting to the Florida parks, it can only be done with Disney's latest and greatest acquisition, Bob's Burgers. Let me explain. This is actually a good idea. This is how we're going to bring Wonder Wharf to Hollywood studios. Bob's Burgers is the long-running animated television series that follows the comedic exploits of the Belcher family and their struggling burger restaurant in the shadow of a rinky-dink amusement park. The players, Bob, the patriarch with an underappreciated passion for good food and especially burgers. Linda, his loving and at times overly spirited wife with a tendency to break out into wandering song. And their children, Tina, Jean, and Louise, each with their own bizarre, eccentric, and lovable personalities. Together, they tackle a variety of topics with a cleverness and a singular humanity that's hard to find in most animated programs. Every episode is sure to find levity, puns, jingles, and well-established characters, always amidst a bevy of ridiculous situations. But behind it all is the core idea about the perseverance of family and staying true to your ambitions in a world full of absurd and challenging obstacles. Personally, I've been a fan of the Belchers since we first met them in 2011, and this might be the drive behind my enthusiasm, but I believe it's the most heartwarming, endearing, and funniest show that's currently on television. And it would appear that the adventures aren't stopping anytime soon, so with a brand new season commencing and a major motion picture heading our way next year, I think now is the perfect time for Disney World to capitalize on the Belchers and honor them with a theme park presence. This may seem like a strange idea, but at its core, Bob's Burgers and the concepts it celebrates are perfect platforms for Walt Disney World fodder and expansion, and the Animation Courtyard in Hollywood studios is the perfect place to do it. It's true that the Belchers aren't your typical vision of the Disney prototype, and considering they've been produced and owned by Fox for a majority of their history, this is completely understandable. But remember, Star Wars wasn't Disney, Muppets wasn't Disney, Twilight Zone isn't Disney, friggin' Aerosmith definitely isn't Disney, but each of them somehow thematically feel at home within their neighborhoods and Hollywood studios. The Courtyard is a perfect venue. So here it is, this is our concept. Let me show you Wonder Wharf in a Hollywood studios capacity. It's going to include a collection of varying attractions, and it's going to be incredible. But remember, this area can't be redone just to redo it. It's got to have purpose. It's got to celebrate what makes its original property so great. So we have to analyze the show. We got to break down Bob's Burgers into its thematic nucleus and reflect it fully within the land. So for me, if I were to break down Bob's Burgers into 5 main ideas, it would be hilarity, heart, food, song, and creativity. And thus, it is crucial that this Bob's Burgers land will exemplify these traits at all times, in some spaces more than others. Obviously, hilarity and heart will be present in every nook and cranny of the land, just as it is in the show. These two are our staples, our main basis, and will be present everywhere. So let's focus in on our following 3 Bob's Burgers foundations. Food is a theme park necessity, and this Bob's Burgers land is going to elevate this to standout levels. I propose that we turn the Disney Junior Dance Party back into its original purpose and former glory, a place to eat. Bob's Burgers is the namesake of the entire property, and a land without its heavy representation would be incomplete. Guests will first encounter the same facade they see on the opening credits of every single episode. After a step inside, guests will find a much more expanded layout of the burger restaurant. Guests will be able to order from a similar menu as featured on the show, including creative pun-guided menu items like the Burger of the Day, Though with it being a Disney theme park, the $5.95 price point will be hard to guarantee. The restaurant will require tremendous capacity and must be divided into expansive dining rooms that will echo other rooms of the Belcher household. The space will tell a story indicating that a sudden boom in business has forced Bob and family to open up their home for extra seating. The neighbors, seeing the influx, are delighted to assist as well, so other dining rooms will be Mort's Mortuary, a morbid but ultimately hilarious setting to eat a burger in. To the opposite side will be the empty store next door, home to a variety of various businesses that will once again be in a state of transition at dinner time. This fun space will be full of different artifacts and remnants and references from many of its previous tenants. I'm not sure Hollywood Studios needs another pizza restaurant, but as a fan of pizza, I certainly wouldn't dispute the idea of installing a Jimmy Pesto pizzeria across the way. Regardless, the other side of the street will match the facade we're familiar with. And while pizza is nice, this is probably the best space for the unavoidable gift shop. A walk inside Jimmy Pesto's connected to Yours Truly stationery would be completely decked out with additional gags and references to the show, but would also include a wealth of Bob's Burgers merchandise. Guests will purchase wearable mustaches, aprons, Coochie Kopi toys, and other branded merchandise, and much more. But most importantly, guests will walk away with their own pair of Louise rabbit ears. This will bring engagement and excitement and revenue into this brand new area. So now that we have Disney's attention, let us proceed to our first attraction, which will celebrate one of my favorite aspects of the entire show, the music and the lyrics of Bob's Burgers. Almost every single episode of Bob's Burgers features at least one jingly and melodic original song. This Bob's Burgers land will celebrate that in a big way by transforming the current space that houses the Little Mermaid show into the Wharf Arts Center. We'll need to remodel the complete interior of the space, 1, to up the theater capacity, 2, to install some new technical requirements, and 3, to slightly extend the runtime. The marquee outside will display the showcase of the Wagstaff community players. We'll call the show Wagstaff Presents, and it will essentially be a Bob's Burgers variety hour. It'll be 22 minutes long, just like the show. Guests will enter in to find a typical theater that slightly models the layout they'd find at the Monsters, Inc. laugh floor in the Magic Kingdom, but it will more closely resemble that of a moderately themed local auditorium. The trick up the sleeve of this theater, though, is that once the curtains raise, we will find that it is masterfully utilizing the 2.5D technology we see so well represented within Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. This allows our favorite 2D characters to take the stage in a particularly groundbreaking and dimensionalized way. In Wagstaff Presents, Gene Belcher will take the stage and play the charismatic MC to a completely randomized but always fluid setlist of different songs and acts. There are just too many songs from Bob's Burgers to narrow down into a simple review, so a handful of linking transitions will allow every single show to be unlike the one before it. Much like how the various scenarios in Star Tours are seamlessly woven together into a loose narrative, we also will never know what songs and scenes we'll be witnessing when we step inside. These scenes could resemble a no-frills talent show style, but special lighting and projection elements could also allow elaborate and colorful set pieces depending on the mood needed. You may stop in one day and see a rousing rendition of Bad Stuff Happens in the Bathroom, a bombastic number from Boys for Now, concluded by an emotional, company-filled take on Electric Love. Another visit could potentially yield a scene from Work Hard or Die Tryin' Girl, a smashing interlude from Cake, and a Bring the House Down performance from Bob Belcher belting 99 red balloons. The extensive Bob's Burgers catalog would also ensure enriching seasonal overlays. It would be random, it would be cohesive, it would be wonderful, it would be Wagstaff Presents. Okay, so now comes the heavy-duty stuff. We have to build the wharf, we have to build rides. It was the idea that Disney was considering replicating Pixar Pier in this space that spurred all of this in motion for me in the first place, and so this water component attached to Wonder Wharf has to be a major anchor for the land. This will require building up an Echo Lake-sized seaside area to put the wharf against. This means the launch bay is going down. Our budget will probably not allow us to recreate all of the Wonder Wharf attractions, but we can feature a few. There will be simple wharf icons like the Wonder Wheel and the Queasy Queen or the Scramble Pan, and of course, the Scream-A-Cane. Now the price point and space available might become an issue here, so while a California Screamin' type roller coaster would be my ride style of choice, a Mousetrap style goofy Sky School-like attraction would be acceptable. Actually, if they're closing Primeval Whirl and Animal Kingdom, some clever redressing could probably turn that system into a fun and rickety wooden roller coaster. With the addition of an actual Wonder Wharf here, the Hollywood Studios would have a small-scale World Showcase Lagoon, which could provide a proper venue to employ a food festival of sorts. There would be different puntacularly named booths and trucks peppered all throughout the theme park area. There can be boardwalk games, but I'd rather not, but I'm not convinced that Disney would pass up the opportunity though. Look at that, we've somewhat cheaply added a handful of attractions and revenue generating spots. Disney, are you listening? The addition of the Wonder Wharf will considerably up the attractions, the activities, and the scenic photo ops in Hollywood studios. But alas, this will not be the headlining attraction of the land because no land is complete without a true e-ticket. And thus, we must find an objective. The thing is, we don't want to just add another ride. It has to have purpose within the studios as a whole. It has to achieve something new. So, what are the studios lacking that the studios desperately need? If we evaluate the Hollywood studios' offerings to that of the other parks in the vicinity, there has been one crucial factor that has always been missing even since the beginning. I believe that no matter where you are, every theme park day should include a refreshing whiff of bromine, and that's just not possible in Hollywood studios right now. But this Bob's Burgers land will change that. We are gonna bring water to the Wonder Wharf. In a perfect world, this attraction would be a generally peaceful 8 to 12 minute indoor boat ride a la Pirates of the Caribbean, with a handful of lifts and drops and perhaps some even thrilling mid-level SeaWorld-esque transitions and surprises. And of course, there will be a recurring and overarching original song to tie everything together. A frequent and lovable trope of Bob's Burgers is when the show gives storytelling authority to Tina, Jean, and Louise. It gives the show permission to be whimsical and create imaginative scenarios without obliterating the confines of the normal universe it's set up. It is in these stories where we find good gags and elaborate parody. And so with that in mind, I think this is the most appropriate direction to take this e-ticket ride, which we'll call, We're Gonna Need a Bigger Bob Ride. The premise of We're Gonna Need a Bigger Bob Ride sees the quirky landlord Mr. Fishodor wanting to revive a past attraction from the Wonder Wharf, the Swan Boats, and thus for some reason is inviting the perplexing creativity of the Belcher children for their input on how it can be enhanced, setting up the standard 3-story structure we can find in similar episodes. Now, I think I am much less creative than anything that the Imagineers and the Bob's Burgers writing staff could achieve together, and so that's just the concept, and what follows is the placeholder for their upcoming genius. But for now, I'm gonna go the spoof route. These episodes generally reflect some kind of parody, and so what better content for lighthearted mockery than the park the attraction will be housed in, so keep that in mind as we proceed. The cue begins with the Belchers enjoying a day at the Wonder Wharf when they are interrupted by Mr. Fishodor with his Swan Boats proposal. We'll weave in and out of an attraction graveyard, so to speak, walking past and through several defunct rides of Wonder Wharf's yesteryear. The loading station will reiterate the dilemma as we board very rickety, unsafe-looking Swan Boats. We'll begin in a bland tunnel, observing the extremely lackluster experience the Swan Boats must have been in its original form. In addition to song and narration, throughout the ride we'll see each of the Belchers and company in simple audio animatronic form. Tina will be the teller of our first story as our boats transition into the first truly themed scene. Tina's take on the Swan Boats will model a Tunnel of Love version of the ride, but Tina will envision this via a romantic Twilight Zone-esque black and white noir. She'll detail how the boats would be the perfect setting for a smooch with Jimmy Jr. Meanwhile, our surroundings will turn into a 1940s hotel. We'll see other familiar characters playing bellhops and other hotel staff and patrons. Everything is a gag and zingers will abound before the supernatural occurs. And in classic Tina fashion, zombies appear. And we find ourselves floating through a ballroom that has all the zombies gently dancing and swaying to a swanky version of the original ride theme song. But Fishodor doesn't like it. This will give duties to Jean's storyline, which will somewhat mimic Rock and Roller Coaster. These boats have got to make waves, he'll say. Sound waves. In Jean's dramatic scenario, the boat is the best seat in the house for a concert of a band he is the lead singer of. As we float through, it'll turn into a zany, dark ride, blacklight sequence with rock and roll lasers beaming on the walls as Jean's band sings a rockin' version of the ride's theme song. During the course of which, the boat will access a roller coaster-esque lift hill, and at the climax of the verse, it will take a somewhat forcefully careening down a specially made track. Bob will say something along the lines of, "Gene, it's not a roller coaster, it's a boat ride," and he'll say, "Nope, it's a roller coaster." Or maybe something like, "If the boat's not a rockin', don't come a knockin'."
Gene.
But Fishodor doesn't like it. So then Louise will take the reins in a science fiction capacity that feels strikingly similar to Rise of the Resistance. Her take on the boats will see the swans floating through an intergalactic space battle. Louise will see herself in a maniacal role as Darth Belcher, antagonizing our boat as it gets caught up in the combat. Outside the window, we can see a Kuchikopi-shaped Death Star. "This doesn't make sense," Bob will say in a Han Solo getup as he fires on familiar-looking stormtroopers. "I like it," Linda as Leia will retort. Our boats will have the appearance of defending themselves as a swan's head turn into lasers firing on the Darth, the troopers, and other calamities around us. These scenes can and should be as fever-dreamy as possible. Bob, increasingly confused, will state, "But it's a boat ride," and then for no reason there will be a grand finale as the shark from the deepening emerges from above, right before we plummet down a soft Pirates of the Caribbean-esque drop. But Fish Odor doesn't like it. Then this will transition us back into the original dilapidated tunnel we began in, but this time there are unique remnants of each of the kids' ride ideas scattered along the interior. And then the ride will conclude with Mr. Fish Odor declaring, "It's probably for the best if the attraction stays closed." So, this is a winner, right? Make sure you got your fast pass. Okay, so it needs some polishing, but we've established the framework for a full land overhaul. The space will proclaim the power of imagination and the togetherness of family, all perfect Disney ideals. It will add life to a lifeless space. So when you break it down like that, the Wonder Wharf expansion seems like a no-brainer, right? Guys?
And so we close it out here with an actual animation courtyard. What do you guys think? Am I crazy? Actually, don't answer that. What you should do is take it down to the comments. Tell me how you would bring the Belchers here to Walt Disney World. Moral of the story is the animation courtyard needs help. Pixar Pier might be an option to revitalize the space, but Wonder Wharf is the answer. If you haven't given Bob's Burgers a chance yet, I highly recommend it. It's Disney now, kind of, and if you're on the fence about this idea, just give a few episodes a try and it won't take too long before you see it my way. And for that, I deeply apologize because now we know that a day at the Hollywood studios will never be complete, never be whole, never be at its full God-given potential without a stop at Wonder Wharf. Until next time, we'll see you in the happy place. Bye.
Going to Florida, sunshiny Florida now. Going to Florida, Florida, Florida. Everyone's going somehow.
Great song, Mom.